Hey everybody, welcome to the channel today. Hey, hopefully today I can show you a few tips of things that I wish I would have known before I started to pour some of this WiseBond right here, Deep Pour Epoxy into this big slab where I'm filling up some big cracks because I'm building this big 38-inch wide single slab maple table for a restaurant. And so normally I don't do big epoxy fills. Normally I just use like West Systems, this stuff like fast curing for small cracks, but this slab had some bigger cracks, and since it was going into a restaurant, I didn't want to leave those gaps open or just do bow ties. And so I was like, I'm going to get some Deep Pour Epoxy. I bought some local, I bought WiseBond Epoxy. I've heard it's a reputable stuff to do from a guy here in the city that sells it and does a lot of this stuff. And yeah, I was like, I feel like I'm a decent furniture maker. I'll show you a few things that I've done, but I've never really done big epoxy, and man, I wish I would have known some of these things. So hopefully today you can learn from my fails, and I'm going to tell you what kind of happened to me, and then, yeah, maybe you can, it won't be such a disaster or dumpster fire when you go to use this, because I've heard this is a great product, and I'm enjoying using it now that I know a few things. So here, I want to show you what I did wrong, what I would have done differently, and how I can maybe help you as you use this product. So here's what I used. I used the WiseBond Deep Pour Epoxy. It's two parts. You have part B, which is the hardener, and then you have part A, which is the resin. What you do is I learned from reading the instruction and everything else is I put in one part of this, so I filled my container up, say, let's just say 8 ounces. I put 8 ounces of the hardener in there. Well, then I need to put 16 ounces of the resin in this, so that gave me ultimately a total of 24 ounces. I mixed that in. They say put the hardener in first, so I put the hardener in, then filled it, then put that in, and then I just used some tint because I want it to be black. I filled it in, and then I mixed it. It says instructions say mixed for 6 to 8 minutes, and so I just set a timer, and I used a little stir stick, and I did it for 6 to 8 minutes, and it took a while. You don't want to do really fast because you don't want to whip a lot of bubbles into it, and so I did that, and then I moved over here, and here's where it is, my pours. So I poured it in, and I poured it in. So here's where I made the mistake. So this is my second pour. So I came in, and what I wish I would have known is, and I use that lighter to kind of help get out the bubbles. As you can see, I've made a form. On this form, it looks pretty, it looks thrown together because here was my mistake. All right, what I didn't realize is I poured this. Well, I'm used to the West Systems epoxy that is over there that cures fairly fast within 8 hours. Well, I poured this before I went to bed, and then I got up the next day and came in here, and it was not even gelled up. It was still very viscous, like liquidy. And I was like, oh no. And I started to panic. Did I put too much tin in there? Did it mess up the ratios? Did I not put enough? Did I mix up? Did I put too much hardener? Did I not put enough hardener? Did I put too much resin? So I had all this fear. And so what I did was, in panic, I ripped my, what's it called? My form off. And like, as you can see, these trash cans, and it got on the floor. It was a mess. And I just elevated up and I dumped it all out because I was afraid that I messed it up, and I just didn't want it sitting in there, staining the wood and all this other stuff. Well, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. I called my friend Kevin, and Kevin was the guy I bought this stuff from, and here's what he said. He's like, man, I did the same thing. It freaked me out a little bit. But this is, you want it to cure slowly, and honestly, the cure time before you even sand this stuff is like 20 or is like 7 days, and it can take up to like 48 hours or so to harden. I didn't realize that. Now I've re-poured this, it started to gel. I'm not going to touch it, but it's like gelling up, and it's getting hard and hardening. It's at a lot slower process. And so don't be freaked out after 8 or 10 hours and it's not like, it's still kind of viscous. I thought I messed it up. I didn't. Now that it's been sitting, this has been for like 18 hours. I'm not going to touch it because I don't want to put a fingerprint in it, but it is gelling and it is doing really well. You probably saw that I put this rim around it. That would be just to kind of help encase it so it doesn't overflow everywhere. I did that on both of these. And then I really tried real hard, and again, it's rigged up pretty bad now because I tried to piece it back together. And that wasn't so great because there were leaks. And so it didn't leak terribly bad, but I'd filled it up to the brim and a little over. But I've had some leaky spots. So here's what I would say. Yeah, that looks bad. Like, it looked way prettier prior to me panicking and breaking it all apart versus I should have called before I broke it apart. So don't do that. But really make sure you overly seal it up because I sealed that. And then I also have this middle crack. And let's just say this. Here's the big fail. It's really bad because it leaked underneath my bench. And so on my nice like Rubo bench that I built, yeah, there's a bunch of black epoxy on it that I'm going to have to let dry and sand off and clean off. It's a workbench, but that's my fault for not sealing it. You got to overly seal this booger up because it will find a leaky spot. But that was my mistake. Those are some things that I've learned. I'm about to mix up the final bit and pour over the top of it because it says that you're not supposed to pour more than 2 inches at a time. So I have to do about 2.5 inches. So I'm going to fill the last ½ inch or so up with the final bit of epoxy. And then I'm going to let it set. I'm going out of town for a day or two. And so it'll take about 48 hours or so to cure. And then I'm going to let it set for a week, 7 days, before I even hit it with a sander. I'm going to follow the instructions. Another thing that I did, don't judge my shop. It's really dirty right now. I'm going to have to do this one also as well. But I put some heaters in here as well because my shop's just a garage to get it up to, they want it about between 70 and 85 degrees in here. It's starting to get kind of cold in Arkansas, down in the 40s and 50s, and my shop was getting cold, and I want it to be the right temperature. I got it around 73 or 4 degrees in here right now, which is great. So those are maybe just some tips as you're pouring. One, don't freak out when you pour and it takes a little bit longer. Use a butane, little lighter, use a heat gun. I just use this and it worked great. I don't have any bubbles in it right now. I don't got any bubbles in it right now to get that out. And then don't freak out and break your form apart because you think you got the mixing wrong when it's not solidifying as quick as possible. This is a slow curing thing. And from what I've talked to the guy who I bought this from who does different types of tables with this stuff, bigger pours. Again, this is my first time to ever work with big epoxy like this, and this isn't like a super big pour, but it's the biggest pour I've ever done because I just personally don't want to use a bunch of epoxy, but since this is going to a restaurant, figured it would. So I panicked a little bit, and I shouldn't have, so I'm going to let all that stuff that's in there cure up because I think the leak is done, and then I'm going to pour over the top of this as well. Hopefully no more leaking, but maybe this will help you in the future for doing your epoxy stuff. Anyways, hey, I hope this helped you. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. If you have any other tips about epoxy, WiseBond, or other bigger pours, please feel free to drop that in the thing below. I'm not like, I don't knock anybody that does river tables. If that's your thing, I'm just not into river tables. I'm not into doing a bunch of epoxy, but these cracks were the biggest ones I've ever had to do. And so, man, I wish I would have done some practice. Do practice before you do it on the piece. I haven't ruined this piece. This piece is still salvageable. It's going to be sand. It's going to be fine, but it just, I wasted some epoxy, and this stuff ain't cheap. And I learned from my experience. So, hey, you're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes in woodworking and sawmilling and everything. Don't let it defeat you. You just learn from it. Like, fail forward. That's all that I can say. And, you know, I'm going to make a better casing for it next time and seal it up better. And then I'm just going to be a little more patient and not panic next time. So I hope this helps you. Again, like, subscribe, all that helps. And until next time, hey, check out some of the other videos, sawmilling videos. Check out my bed build that I did for my daughter. I'm going to post a few more videos on me cutting all the bow ties and stuff like this in time-lapse pretty soon. More videos to come. Life's just been busy and crazy, and I haven't been able to keep as many of these things going as I would like. But thanks for watching. Until next time, keep sawmilling and keep woodworking and all that other stuff.